I guess I can't say any more good morning, good afternoon to everyone. So just to give you a quick background about us, before we start that, I think earlier morning speakers, they did touch upon quite a list of items which we were also going to go and address them. It's very interesting that how like-minded things are like, and there's definitely a challenge and opportunity, I would say, at the same time, where we can really leverage what's going on with the whole transformation. Coming in front of us, not just, I would say, in the pharma industry, but it's coming globally and across various industries. So I'm very glad that, some of the thoughts that I had, I heard from you also at the same level. So maybe we'll have a little bit of a different view for the same thing, but as a theme is quite similar, I would say. So before I just touch upon that, like about Tigle or mySignatureBook, we are actually a US-based organization formed about 10 years back in California. And during the course of our time, we also realized key technologies and key disruptions are happening around you, and how, as an organization, we can enable those technology and disruptions happening through our skills and capabilities. So we are actually a California-based organization. We have offices in New York as well, and we also have a big engineering center in Chandigarh, where we are trying to support our global customers from the same location. Our customers are quite diverse and wide. While we may focus on pharmas, we also touch on various verticals as well, which gives us an opportunity to give and experience various industries and how they are similarly or sometimes dissimilarly trying to achieve similar goals in the space. So our experience lies upon kind of a change which we are seeing here happening in our pharma industries as well. We're kind of enabling those transformations to happen a little bit more effectively, a little bit more efficiently and faster rate. We are quite trusted, especially in the pharma space. Just now I met a colleague here who's an ex-Pfizer person, and they've been using our application, I guess, for the last 5 to 7 years. And we have gone a long way from the original Pfizer application you may have seen, but right now we are fully cloud-based, fully secure, and give you a lot more options that you may have seen in your Pfizer's earlier days. Because this whole application is developed, one of the main contributor was, in that case, was Pfizer. So we have a fair amount of knowledge and understanding in this space, but the ties of the actual transformation we'll see a little quickly on this. So before I really get into the actual offering and what mySignatureBook is doing, I want to touch on the same thing what is happening right now, which originally we touched upon. Somebody said the radio is missing. Somebody said the television is no more big tube. So it means things are changing, but changing pretty fast. Not just fast, they're changing exponentially, actually, if you think about that. I give an example of actual, like how the telephone industry was started, actually, like way back in 1800s. It took almost like 80 years, 80 plus years before you could see this rotatory of phone to a real dial-up phone. But from the dial-up phone to the actual Nokia popular model, which most of you must be carrying in your life, happened much shorter time. But the smartphone area came very, very fast. And right now, nobody can imagine a life without having a smartphone with them. Some people make a conscious effort to learn how they can use it, but your life is kind of depends upon that. So the point remains that the transformation is happening. It's happening around you. If you're not looking at it, you're getting blindsided. You need to be prepared how you can really stay alive or keep your business growing. So that's one example I want to say. But at the same time, as we heard from earlier discussion, businesses are changing. Right now, as you said, the Pfizer's competition is not Eli Lilly. Pfizer's competition is Qualcomm. I think that's the quote you referred to. That's absolutely correct. So how many of you really know about a company called Tesla? Right? So Tesla is, if you know, at one time, GM Motors was the world's biggest car manufacturer. And Ford and GM Motors were running the entire automobile area. They were the global leaders. They're making a lot of money. But right now, Tesla is the most valued company in America. So they changed the whole business model, how the actual car has been produced, how the actual car has been sold, and how people are experiencing the whole utilization of the car also. I don't see a vision where India will ever have that, because our roads are wonderfully made, but we don't follow them to the degree which most of the developed countries are following. So automation of the driving may not happen, but you will still see the electric vehicles, and then how the actual cars being manufactured is also changing. So company which is making just 70,000 cars, I think last year Tesla made about 70,000 cars, and GM made about 5 million cars. And now you can compare how GM stands against Tesla. So nobody could have thought in their wildest dream that GM could be a company which is going to be caught behind. And that's one of the most difficult industry. If you talk about the regulation, talk about the competition, talk about the whole distribution model. They change the entire scheme. Coming along, Uber, right? How many of you really still use what you call the black and white taxi? I don't think in this room anybody is using it. Everybody is using Uber or Ola, right? And Uber and Ola, they're not just talking about giving you actual option to a driverless economy. They're also giving you how you can leverage or aggregate your vehicle going in the road, use for additional values, right? Your deliveries, your extension of your FedEx or your DHL. So actual on-time, very fast delivery, which is going to be realization from the word of Uber. So these are just two names I picked, but they are a lot more like that, which is changing the whole economies. The economy is changing. The one key ingredient in this economy is really the digital. If you are not digital, if you're not changing, the survival is pretty difficult for that. So coming along, what is happening from the Western world, coming around what is happening in India also is the digital in India. So we already experienced big time that what happened with this whole cash change or the currency change. A lot of people felt the pain for the short time, but I think we all in the end appreciated that this is for our own good. Hopefully the transparency is going to come with a cashless society, more integrity and more ability to do business more seamlessly will happen. So we have a digital India coming along with the cashless. So it's quite natural progression I see when you start from the cashless, our economy is also going to become paperless also, because the paper is a big burden, and it's going to be happening. It's already happening in a lot of places. It's only way to really grow your business if you break the entire manual process in your business processes. If you can handle a paperless flow, your cost of running the business becomes significantly lower. So you really have an ability to grow your revenue and also control your costs. So that's the change which is happening. If you really want to leverage and grow, I feel our organization's ability to compete globally or compete or innovate, we have to see the change coming. If we do not adopt to this change, it's going to be very, very challenging to stay in business. So we have to apply this change quickly. Not just change has to be quickly, it cannot be a haphazard change as well. It has to be very, very accurate. So I hope, so now our vision basically ties up with the same thing, how we can enable all those organizations which are trying to accomplish their change goals through a more secure and transparent manner. So I think what we can achieve from MSB is this, how we can leverage what we have to offer. I'm not trying to do an actual sales pitch. I want to also try to make you understand that this change is already been accepted by a lot of organizations. They're already handling it. So if you really see how successful businesses are doing, if they're accepting this digitalization, we have seen, like, not just independently, this independent research has happened, that companies are able to grow their revenues much easily because they are able to control their cost. And the cost impact is such a big that their profits are going up significantly. So if you are able to increase your profit by 50%, so all this innovation which is already happening, if you can accept them and adopt them, your actual business valuation goes higher. And Tesla is, I just give you an earlier slide example where the valuation of the Tesla has gone from, the stock used to be about $30 stock, right now it's about $300 stock. So 10 times increase in the Tesla stock happened over the course of less than 3 years. So you can imagine how they could achieve that, only because they were seeing that change. They were changing the whole landscape, how the car has been manufactured, how the car has been accepted in the marketplace. So if I come back and accept this change is happening, and what do I need to see relate to the industry? Because I want to try to do this like, we understand there's a policy shift happening in our government. We understand there's a business dynamics are changing in our organizations. So if that's, what is the impact on that actual pharmaceutical industries? How we can make, see these challenges, unless we see those issues, we cannot really address them. So as the last speaker pointed out that India was not innovating in drug, but now they are trying to innovate. If you are innovating in manufacturing of a drug or research a drug, your cycle time becomes very, very critical. And the cycle time is not just applicable to actual drug development. Cycle time could be limited to your actual process which you're trying to address. It could be a submission to a FDA, could be a cycle time also. So that cycle time is the most crucial time becomes when you apply for a patent. You can imagine the patent has a very limited life. Patent has in the range of 12 to 13 years life of patent, but it takes sometimes 3 to 5 years before you accept that patent, before you get awarded that patent. So if you have any delays before the patent can be issued to you, you lost that extra month or extra quarter of a revenue when the patent was acceptable or not available to other competition. So the development of the cycle time is very critical. Secondly, the healthcare is changing. It's not the old traditional patient which a doctor says whatever and they will accept it blindly. So patients are also accepting more and more from their doctors. They are more informed. They are also coming prepared. They do their whole research before they go see a doctor, and they ask all sorts of questions. And that all put a burden on physicians also, because oftentimes doctors are using the same their EMR system. They have to keep track of what they are doing. So if they don't have any efficient and digital process where they can gather all this data and process all this data in a very faster manner, they're not going to give you the right diagnosis. They're not going to be able to track the patients as well. And last but not the least is the regulation. As we just heard, right, the pharma is the second most regulated industry. So if you are a second most regulated industries, the cost of doing business to be in compliance, especially when you're going out of India and you have to submit your application to a US FDA, and you have to submit your application to EMA, you have to understand those standards. You have to meet their needs also. And they sometimes are very stringent, very strict. So we have to address all three of them, then only you can really make an impact on digital transformations. So what is happening currently, if you really see in the pharma space? On the right side, you see like we have a bunch of stakeholders, patients, healthcare providers, partners, employees. All these members are interacting with enterprise or group of enterprises in today's world. And yet, there's a huge amount of investment has been made in each pharmaceutical industries, but oftentimes we realize that those systems are there, but they still have a whole lot of inefficiencies are there. Sometimes the systems are doing the overlapping work. Sometimes they're not talking to each other. If they're talking to each other, they don't understand the same protocol. Somebody has to do the extra work so that they can communicate with the other system. And oftentimes, process just breaks down because there's no automation. It is a manual step. Suddenly, you go see a doctor, you need to have a patient's consent form coming to you. Although you have the complete data got gathered, but you don't have ability for a patient to sign up their consent form, you have to print a paper. You have to go to the patient's bed and take the signature from the patient. So all these things are happening. Either they are printing, faxing, scanning, but they are not very well organized. So this is the current state of affair, if you really see about that in a lot of organizations. Yet it's changing fast because people are making investment, but they are not able to really understand how they can break a barrier of any manual process and make it fully end-to-end digital. And what MSB can do for those such organizations is that fully automate, and then if you really see, we have been able to, I know that a lot of people were trying to give us the business aspect, policy aspect. I'm a little bit of a technical person, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a technical aspect also of this, that MSB has a strong service layer where it can integrate with any existing system, any legacy system you have in place, and that legacy system can be connected directly or indirectly with MSB and give you the full digital transformation. So we have seen that thing happening in organizations starting from their simple HR processes, HR onboarding. We have seen a clinical study investigators, they are going to a site where they can capture, scan, and route for review. Same day, I heard there's a government of Gujarat trying to make a 24-hour turnaround time. You can do a turnaround time in 2 hours with our application. We have a mobile capture, scan, and review ability where you don't even have to make a second visit. And one of our customers, actually, very interesting story, like, they've been using our product for quite some time. So we kind of custom made the whole workflow for them where the whole site, their auditors are globally. I am sure a lot of people already know there's an Icon Research. They are the global research organization. So they have the study going across all the world, but they have one single center in Chennai, Madras, where all the reviews are happening. It was very painful for them. They go to a site, they may or may not have that network sometimes. The guy has to be back to the other site. They have very limited time. So what they would do is they will go to a small corner, then find the ability to scan, and then go to a shop, get this printed and FedEx to Chennai, and then takes about another week's time before they can get the review feedback back. But now they're using our app. The guy goes. So our app has offline storage. Offline storage means like even if you don't have a network, we can keep the data securely on your device and transmit as soon as the network comes available. So now their weeks delays got turned into hours results. And it also improves the site's efficiency also. Now site realizes that they get the feedback so fast. They are also innovating, so their time to do business is significantly reduced. So just to kind of say what really MSB it means for our business is really is that we give us the fastest solution possible there. One of the key aspects in our solution is security and trust. And security is such that we take it very, very seriously because coming from our own pharma background, we understand how critical is to data has to be only accessible to the users when they need to see it, who needs to see it, and also how we need to share that same data securely, faster, in an encrypted manner. So we take trust in our organization very, very seriously. That's like our core principles that we need to develop a secure solution. Our solution is such that even if you are not using a solution, let's say I give you a signed document and you're looking at it offline somewhere, if somebody has made any alteration, any adjustments to make, you will get alerted right there and then that this document has been modified. So it gives you a quick check that is it the same document I signed 2 weeks back or same document I signed 2 years back, that availability is there for you, the product. So with MSB, while we have the solution, but there are certain key ingredients we feel that are important before anybody can really do the digital transformation, before they can really adopt that. And we try to hit all those key points. If you miss any one of the points, the adoption becomes very difficult. So one of the key points is there the customer experience. The application has to be very, very easy to use, not just by technical savvy people. It should be used by a site person also. It could be used by HR, a clerk also. They should be able to use the application widely. So we take a great amount of effort to do the usability of the product in a way so that it gives you what you need. The customer experiences has to be number one. And it's not the same thing which you see from the MSB in Pfizer network right now. Our solution is in cloud and then gives you great experience. Anybody has used email, they can use solution very, very easily. Second and other foremost point is the collaboration. Talking about collaboration, if you have a system cannot take the existing infrastructure in place, it won't do any good to you. So we again have built measures where the collaboration becomes very easy and very fast. And other key thing is security and compliance. As I said earlier, security is one of the key thing in MSB, that where any data comes into MSB has to be available for the duration it's supposed to be. After certain time, it is not should be accessible. It should be go back to your own, let's say, eTMF systems, or it goes to your own repositories. We send it back there. We also give you a wide variety of way to sign. You don't need to always have a computer or dongle with you. You can sign in the cloud with the cloud available all across. You can use your mobile devices, but they're all secure. It works with the enterprise VPN. It works with your different PKI infrastructure. All those things are currently in place. We enable those things very quickly for you. And all these things can only be accepted that if you have a good return on investment. So one of our customers were trying to really launch a new a project. They're saying, I can only get the project approval if I can show some cost saving, and because I cannot get approval for new budgets. The budgets are very tight. We are doing a lot of cost cuttings. I can't really take it. So what we did was really show how you can really get the project approved, because it has to pay for itself. So once we show the result within 6 months, right, they really see, like we generally claim that within 6 months you will get your return on investment. They have such a heavy use, they accept it so fast, like, within like after 5 months itself, they're seeing starting the, they're both revenue and cost made a, positive turn for them. So that's the impact we have from MSB, that we give you. It's not additional cost for the business when you transform. The change is necessary, but at the same time, change saves you money. It keeps you business competitions competitive also for you. Some of the use cases, I don't need to touch upon that. Like what we're trying to show here really is that any use case, however customized or however standard it is realizable through our platform. You can do any sorts of work which requires a strict compliance requirements, or requires a simple normal IT or HR processes, any legal functions. All the things are fully developed so that they can be used in your organization out of the box. And by the way, we are not just FDA and EMA compliant, we are also India IT Act compliant as well. That's something I think is mentioned here. So one of the key aspects I think we see here is when, especially in the pharma, everything which you process, it has to meet 21 CFR Part 11 requirements. We understand fully. We give them a variety of ways users can take that requirements and implement in a very fast. As a Pfizer example, like Pfizer is using our application for the last 8 years. They wanted to switch from the digital to electronic signatures, and yet they want to stay compliant. And so we came with the sit down with them, how you can achieve them, how they can really develop their SOPs, how can they develop their QMS systems through which they can be compliant for any FDA's approval. So we did that pretty easily with our flexible platform. So some of the benefits here which you see that oftentimes when you do a manual operation, you see either you did not sign and send the package back without signatures on it, or even if you signed it, you signed at the wrong place. So what happens with MSB that you are right for very first time. So that's a very important thing. Like you can only imagine the cost to redo the whole flow is tremendous. So we have significantly reduced the reduction time. We have significantly reduced the cycle time in which the efficiencies are tremendous. And these numbers are not just our own numbers. These are numbers from the customers itself. Like on average, we notice that there are approximately $40 savings per transaction, which you convert from manual to digital. And just to link that number, Pfizer recently signed actually 4 million signatures using our application on the submission side. And they did the internal study that they saved them $120 million in a very short time when they started doing it for the whole FDA. So you see the point here is that the customers are getting their money's worth, more than their money's worth. So they are right now still ahead of the game because they are adopting the solutions. GSK has a very strong process where when they do the submission to FDA, FDA has a very strict PDF standard requirements. We are the only application in the world right now actually which meets the actual FDA submissions. I don't know how much when you use, there's a fast web view format required on PDFs. We are the only one who supports that. When FDA requires that, wherever they signed up when they submit, they had to enable that standardization of the PDF, which we only support this. Nobody else supports that. I just told you a story about the icon. They're using entire organization-wide, not just internally, also externally. So these are some of the key customers in this space. As you can see, all the major pharmas are using it. We want to bring the same solution, and better, which is tailored for the Indian pharmas also, and we take pride in that, serving, the Indian, community also, in which we can bring the global experience which we have developed over the course of time from the Indian community also. So, what I can only tell you at this time is here that how do you take it from there. I give you a little bit of a touch about what is happening at the business space, what is happening at our end. But if anybody has not started, they need to really start now, I believe. You don't need to do a big bang approach. I believe you can identify a certain similar simple use cases which can be easily accepted and adopted. Start from those areas, simple use cases, and see how the culture shift happens. Because a lot of times it's not just technology, right? The culture resistance is also, to understand what are the cultural resistance, what are the security requirements, what are the guidelines for your users' use cases, are they always on the field, are they always in the desk, do you give them the VPN access or not? So there are a whole lot of questions we can go and sit down with the customers and how they can really start it, but it can be started very, very easily. So that's pretty much most of my presentation. What I want to tell you is in summary in the end that if you feel that you heard from the earlier morning speakers what they are talking about, the changes coming, and how it's critical to really understand the change coming and how to adopt it, I think we need to move fast. And fast means it's not just go back and do it, plan it, get the budget, and do it next quarter or next year. Fast means you do it now, because the rules of the jungle, I think, a little bit changed, right? It's not the same thing that big used to eat small. Right now, it's a faster or quicker used to eat the slow one. So if you're slow to see the change, if you're slow to adopt the change, and if you can't do that, you're going to be General Motors. If you want to be a Tesla, you need to really get ahead of the game, understand the change, what is coming, and plan for it now. Take action, right? So if you do not take action, it's only we as our organization self to blame for. But the opportunity is there, solutions are there. If anyone has any interest learning more about that, we have a booth here too. I wish there's some more audience here so that we can have more, interactive conversation. But we would love to help anyone who's interested to make a difference in the organizations and take the benefit from our experience. Thank you. Any questions? Sure. Yes. So Apollo Hospital is a very interesting story, right? We've been talking to Apollo Hospital, and they had the whole innovation initiative going on with Apollo to really convert their paper into digital. And they are also a little bit worried about that whatever doing already in their organization may or may not fly, actually. When they did the discovery, they were doing some electronic, signatures here, but they were not really compliant. So what we did for Apollo, one of the main point for Apollo was the patient's discharge summaries. They were always seeing there's a big delay, the patient's getting discharged, doctor may or may not be there, and if doctor is there, they need to consult with some other physicians also before they can discharge it. So our solution, what it gives them is the automation of a discharge summary. So what happens in Apollo's case, their medical transcriptionists, they use our system to submit the actual discharge summaries on their on the system, and those gets routed to the physicians. And it could be one or many physicians. So the physicians can see this discharge summaries on their mobile devices, or generally they are always carrying their smartphones, and they can review that, and they can give their comments, feedback. All this, if the acceptance happens from doctor can sign right there. It goes to the patient or goes back to the MTs. If any comments are there, MT is going to update those summaries and then send it back for physician. The same way, physicians may also route it to other physicians because they think there's a ophthalmologist is required versus gastroenterologist, so they can do all of that kind of stuff, and it automates them. So basically, in this case, they can get the patient out very, very fast in a very appropriate time, and it also saves them money because there's other patient waiting to get the bed, right? So a doctor doesn't have to be there in the hospitals. Doctor can be anywhere, and they can review and discharge summaries. So that's the actual cycle. And not just that, I spoke with a couple of doctors also, and then doctor said, oftentimes patients come back to us also, and the patients come from, not always from city, they come from rural areas also. They don't always carry all the documentations with them. So doctors can also see the summaries. If I go visit after 1 week, doctor can retrieve the old summaries on their devices too, and then they can give a diagnosis and any updates to the patient.
Mr. Sodhi,
yes. We generally don't carry any additional costs. Our cost model is pretty simple, actually. We are a cloud-based service provider. It's basically a user-based or transaction-based cost. So there's no additional cost. Sometimes we have a very small cost to integrate with your other systems where we help sometimes, or sometimes customers want to do themselves, we support them too. So we maintain a fully validated system in this case. So oftentimes, what our approach is to give our customers, especially in the pharmas, private cloud option. So it means if you're giving you a cloud, the cloud is basically under the control of the organization. And even if you have a new release, we will not update it till you are ready to accept the release. So we work with you to apply the new release.
Sodhi, your primary approach and promotion to private companies, what about our Indian government system, like our local FDAs? You know that day to day we cross over like all these document approvals, everything kind of. Any plan you approach to government sector also?
It's a very interesting question, and we are working with some of the government agencies also, and working with government is much better than it used to be. But we are actually taking upon with government right now, very interesting use case is the education use case. We're working with government to give them electronic certificates, transcripts, and degrees. Because, like in India right now, there's a lot of fraud happens. You go to university, nobody knows who's who, and then you can produce any sort of paper. So what we are doing is protecting the actual transcript issuance, degrees issuance through electronic signatures. And we also tying the whole thing, we're working with NAD also on that to tie to the Aadhaar IDs also. So whatever we're doing is linked to the, actual recipient was supposed to receive those information. So that's a work we're doing. With work in progress, a little bit slower, but at the same time, what we have done is we have partnered with the CDAC. So CDAC has given us a special, platform where we are allowing Aadhaar-based authentication, Aadhaar-based signing possible. Yes. Yes, please. Yes, yeah.
Thanks. The slide also mentioned about Indian IT Act, which is, I guess, a fairly recent phenomenon. So, like on the ground, how it is, what is the situation, and whether the kind of provisions that we are having and the provisions otherwise at a global level. Can you comment on that?
Yeah. So, India IT Act fairly tells you whenever you're signing anything electronically, you need to be able to establish a secure way to prove that this transaction occurred. You know, if somebody challenges you in a court of law, right, what happens? So as for the Indian IT Act, there's a certain level of requirements to maintain an audit trail, maintain integrity in a documentation, maintain the compliance requirements. We maintain that. So with that, we cover that piece. India IT Act also encourages you to sign digitally, right? And digitally means, and you guys might have seen, you know, your CA or, you know, you guys often come across using the digital dongle and you put them in your computer and then sign it. But that's a one-off signing. So we support that kind of signing also. We support cloud-based signing with Aadhaar credentials also. We support electronic signing, which is also compliant with the India IT Act. So it's up to the organization appetite, right? How they want to accept it. If they are open for digital certificates, we do that. But what we have noticed that in organizations here in India, across organizations, electronic signing is viable, is as per the requirements for India IT Act, and they are fully acceptable.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Majority of the 483 has been given because of the data integrity part, and as you have just mentioned that this particular software is also 21 CFR 211 compliant.
Yep.
So would you please put some more details at how we are actually doing it, and what are the criteria you are taking in consideration for tackling the data integrity issue?
So definitely there's a certain level of encryptions and key control we provide. So we are fully versed with the PKI technologies. We use a variety of where the PKI technology has been used. We manage that. And just to be 21 CFR compliant, there's a whole slew of guidelines, right? If you see the 21 CFR compliant requirement, there are about 20 different points. And some of them are technical, some of them are procedural, some of them are depend on the customers. So what we do in the 21 CFR compliance, you know, we manage the aspect which are controlled by our development processes. We also manage, help the customers to make sure they have the right amount of documentation and control. We manage their QMS, we guide their QMS systems also to be compliant, and we obviously audit it for our internal systems also. So we hit all those key points, and actually I have a very lengthy slide presentation which basically talks to one by one each point which is required, how you maintain the integrity, how you make the compliance, how you apply the signature, how you maintain the audit trail. All the things have been tracked and controlled through our solution. And if you're interested, we can definitely show you how the coverage is. But we understand the whole guidelines and compliant aspect of it. Any questions? Okay, thank you.